Meet John Doe was a 1941 drama with some comedy elements. It's a film directed by Frank Capra of It's a Wonderful Life fame. And there are definitely some of those wonderful lifestyle moments in this film. I enjoyed it. It's a good, entertaining, romantic comedy drama. It's also heady at times. It makes you think about the themes of media power, influence, politics, things like that. And it also has some great performances as well. So the film opens up with changes that are taking place in a newspaper in the 1940s, with many of the staff being eliminated, including Barbara Stanwyck's character, Ann Mitchell. Here we get into the central scheme of this film that will have long-reaching implications through the film, when she crafts a fictitious letter from this anonymous John Doe character that laments the state of the world and our lack of brotherly love and so on. And the letter even threatens that this John Doe character is going to throw himself off a building on Christmas Eve if there are no changes. So this letter goes out, word gets around, and this is, of course, pre-internet days, so word of mouth, radio, print, and all those old archaic methods, and the thing really takes off. So she gets her job back, and she proposes that basically to double down on this bluff, they need to actually find someone, an actual guy on the street, who can play this actual John Doe character. Yes, it's a fiction, but they're going to kind of build it up and run with it. By the way, Barbara Stanwyck is always amazing, and I love her in this film. She has this super enthusiasm that carries her through so much of this deception, just this gleeful, playful energy. But it is fascinating to watch that there's a transformation that takes place later into the film as things really start rolling with this John Doe thing. And I'll get to that in just a minute. So the newspaper starts interviewing candidates to be this John Doe character. They go through a whole bunch of candidates, and then they find Gary Cooper's character, Long John Willoughby. Now, he's just kind of this sunken, emaciated-looking character. He's a homeless guy, and he and his friend is another homeless man, played by Walter Brennan. He's there as well, and he kind of resembled Grandpa Joe from Willy Wonka. Maybe it was just me. Anyhow, the two of them are friends. They kind of stick together through most of the film. So Anne picks out John from the group. They choose him, they bring him in, feed him, clean him up, and get him to agree to play this John Doe fiction. Gary Cooper is a remarkable actor as well. I love just watching his range of acting in this film. I mean, initially, like I said, he's kind of this gaunt, hungry-looking character who just wants some sort of a job. But once he gets well-fed and dressed and rested in his hotel room, the reporters come by for some pictures, and he is like a transformed man. He hams it up, and he's a lot healthier, and he's just kind of rolling with things at this point. He's kind of like the average man. He's thrown into a weird situation, trusts this newspaper, and he just kind of goes with it. So finally the night comes where John has to give his big speech as John Doe. Clearly he's really nervous, his hands shaking. Anne is, of course, super enthused, standing by his side. And John starts out giving the speech. He's all nervous, but then his character transforms and he really seems to get into it, really starts to believe what he is reading. But after all of the cheers and applause, he and his homeless buddy, they just sneak away. He's not ready for all of this transformation just yet. John's just not sure what he's doing. But the John Doe thing really takes off, and soon it's a big deal everywhere with these John Doe clubs forming, and he can't go anywhere without being recognized. For instance, John and his friend, they just try to lay low in a town. They go to a little diner, but soon he's just getting recognized. People see him, they come up to him and share their stories about how they too are trying to be more kind to their neighbors and make a difference in society. And there's a long sequence with the soda jerk character, I mean that's what he was called, who shares his story about befriending others, even the old cranky man who lived next door, and how thanks to John Doe's inspiration, they've been able to make new friends. And I will admit this scene did kind of keep going and going while John listened. I mean, it's sweet and wholesome and all, but maybe could have used a little bit of editing. But in any case, John continues with his talks. It's bigger and bigger assemblies of people, more and more people believing what he says, believing his message. They travel, they do many shows, and during this time, John, you can tell he's starting to fall in love with Anne, and he's even thinking about proposing to her soon. Now, actor Edward Arnold plays this powerful character, D.B. Norton, and this guy is something. He's this cunning, manipulative character, but when he starts talking about his power and his control of the media, and then he can end this John Doe movement if he wants. But he decides not to. He sees how popular it is, and he gets this power play scheme that he wants to do to buy his way into power using the John Doe movement, furthering his own agenda in creating a new political party to try to become president of the United States. It's almost like this third-party Ross Perot type of vibe to it, for those who remember that time. Now, I really liked Edward Arnold in this role, as he didn't really play the villain too over the top. None of this moo-ha-ha-ha stuff, but rather he is just this cold, logical, and very intelligent man who knows all about the psychology of power and how to use it. Meanwhile, John, he's really getting into the John Doe movement thing. He is speaking his mind, and he's off to do this big final speech to the multitudes in the rain. And this actually leads up to a very uncomfortable mob scene. I don't want to drop too many more details because this is really a neat film. You need to see it for yourself. But wow, it takes a darker direction for a Frank Capra film. And it's really great to see what happens in the story when someone with power steps in and things start to shut down. Again, not going to say much more. Check out the film. And there's even a couple crime noir elements I noticed in the film too. It's really cool. Some closing thoughts. Boy, I hope there are better copies of this film out there, because I've literally just watched this version on Amazon Prime. And this copy that Prime was streaming was atrocious. I mean, there's like clumps of hair on the film cells and so on. I might have to check out a copy from the library for a better version, but my goodness, Amazon, really? And, I think Frank Capra films are great. I usually think of them as frothy, feel good, but this one veered from cheerful and funny to darker territory with topics of politics and power, control of the media and the police, socialism, communism, the American work ethic. Oh, and suicide on Christmas Eve, too. Seems like this could have been a good film for like a civics class to discuss, and there are some weighty themes, but there's also some feel-good moments as well. It's kind of a mixed film as I think about it. I think the problem I had with the film, respectfully, is that it kind of lacked consistency. I really wanted to get into it and like it for everything that it was, but sometimes there's just scenes that don't really seem to wrap up or conclude or tie in, like the overly long scene in the hotel with the baseball. Well, whatever happened to John's love of baseball and his dream? Or John's romantic interest in Anne? That seemed to be a considerably powerful, important story direction. And then, well, what happened? I mean, it felt like that was a plot thread that was never quite resolved with any satisfaction. And even the ending, again, I'm not dropping any spoilers, but I have to admit that last scene didn't leave me completely satisfied that everything had been resolved. Maybe that was intentional. I don't know. This one was a little peculiar in just those themes of consistency of the plot, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It's still an excellent film. And if only for Gary Cooper and Barbara Stanwyck and their amazing performances. Both do a tremendous job here. And it is a very good story. It's probably a film that merits a few more watches to kind of pick everything up. But it was really good. This was an excellent Frank Capra film from 1941. It is worth checking out.